Possessor is a 2020 horror film directed by Brandon Cronenberg. And if that name sounds familiar, that's because Brandon Cronenberg is the son of the body horror legend David Cronenberg, who's also known for directing films such as Scanners and The Fly. Anyway, Possessor is about a female assassin named Voss, who controls the bodies of other people in order to eliminate her targets. I'm gonna be upfront in saying that I really like this movie. This movie is great. I know I could easily talk about all the blood and gore that's in a handful of scenes in this film, but I'd much rather talk about how the film decided to tell its story. Unlike most popular films where you've got characters and scenes that explain every goddamn aspect of the plot, Possessor does the complete opposite. All Possessor does is it puts little pieces of the story in front of the audience so that the audience can be the ones to put the pieces of the story together. This essentially requires the audience member to be an active participant in the film instead of just a passive observer. To give an example of this, one major part of the plot is that the main character Voss struggles with her identity. Due simply to the large number of people that she's had to possess and imitate, she has become severely detached from herself. So how exactly does Possessor explain this concept to the audience? The film doesn't explicitly state any of this. Instead, what we get is a scene early on in the film where Voss is practicing how to act like herself before she's reunited with her husband and son.
Hi, darling. Hi, darling. Hi, darling.
She has to stop and rehearse phrases as if she's putting on an act. As an audience member, we're expected to take this piece of the puzzle and figure out what it means. We can piece together that a person normally wouldn't have to practice acting like themselves, not unless they're struggling with their own identity. You see, instead of explicitly telling us this aspect of the story, Possessor instead decides to show us. This technique is simply called show, don't tell. Show, don't tell is an excellent storytelling tool. However, Possessor uses it way more than your average film does. This can make the film very difficult to recommend, despite how much I like it. Remember how I mentioned earlier that Possessor requires the audience member to be an active participant instead of a passive observer? The fact is, not everyone wants to be an active audience member. There's a lot of people who don't want to be the ones to piece the story together. Some people just put on films, so that they can relax and not think about too much. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. But if anything I've said about Possessor interests you, then I'd highly recommend it. Just know that you might end up with more questions than answers, and you might have to watch the film more than once in order to pick up all the pieces of the story, but trust me, it will be worth it.